Peace, love, and light, everyone. I hope all is well. This is your girl, Serena Wills, and welcome to another segment of Literary Artistry. I am a self published author, a poet, and a spoken word artist. For those who don't know who I am, and they're like, who is this woman? And today I have company with me. I have a wonderful friend. It's so great how we met, Maurice. I loved sharing the story how I met you. We have Maurice Carroll, and I was looking for someone to help me record my audiobook. In past seasons, I talk about the process of what it took to record my book from my side of the fence. And I just knew I could not do it by myself. I could not do it with my mic in my house, okay, recording, and then what's going to happen after you're done, okay, or the thump, or the fire engine going past, or the kid who bombards you and asks questions. No. So I went on Facebook. I'll never forget. It was Facebook. I'm still looking for that memory to pop up. And I was in like the DC Poets or something page, and I said, I'm looking for someone who can help me produce my audiobook. Do any of you have any suggestions? And Maurice's name was like a grocery list in the comments. It was like Maurice Carroll. I'll reach out to Maurice. Oh yeah, Maurice is great. And I was like, okay, all right. I'm gonna reach out to Maurice Carroll. And people that I knew didn't know, I was like, wow, okay. And then even after I recorded, found out they were like, "Oh, you work with Maurice? So did I. I didn't know you work with him." So yeah, and it went from there. And I think that was when did we start recording? 2 years ago?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, a couple of years ago. So Maurice, welcome to Literary Artistry. Appreciate you being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, you're welcome. So people have been asking throughout the seasons, different questions I know I cannot answer about audiobook producing. And I said, okay, I'm the one that sat on the stool with the mic and was reading my book. I was like, I cannot answer technical questions. And it's just, I was like, let me bring Maurice, on board and we could talk. And this comes from a workshop that we did together, which was really great, about producing an audiobook. So there's going to be some questions that people never knew, like, oh, we thought that I needed a sound engineer, or they did
hmm
both, or what do you
hmm
mean they don't do both? Or, so,
Right, right.
so we're going to start with making the decision, right? So, like me, I was like, I can't do this by myself. Okay, so I was like, let me find an individual. So, at first I was looking at companies and I see, I'd rather work with an individual, someone who knows how to do the edits, unless you know how to do that part, someone who will give you the space and place to record, and also tell you when you may need to call it quits, saying, oh, your voice is, you're getting a little tired. Okay, it's been, and it has a time frame, because I didn't know any of that. And so I started working with Maurice. So Maurice, when people ask you, how do they make that decision? Like how do you help them, guide them to decide an individual versus a company to work with?
The first thing would be their experience level.
Mm.
So if you are someone, this is your fifth or sixth book that you are or have been recording, it's okay, you kind of know what to expect, you kind of know what is and what isn't, and then your budget is important as well. So
Mm.
if you're somebody that can kind of record and go to a company and say, hey, I already know what I'm doing, I just need you to do the technical things. Okay, great, because a company is going to be pretty hands off.
Mm.
They're not going to really, typically, they don't really give you the personal insight on specifically what you are recording. They'll give you the broad view of, hey, just make sure it's at this decibel and it's not past this amount length of time. And that's what you get a lot of times when you're dealing with a company. Um, the advantage of working with an independent producer is understanding that that producer can tell you, hey, listen, you should read that again. You paused or you hesitated and it didn't sound a particular way. Your
Mm-hmm.
voice cracked, or there's raspiness in your voice, or um, did you emphasize the right word to get your point across?
Mm.
Though that's what a producer is there for. Or like you said, hey, let's take a break because your voice is sounding fatigued. Let's break and let's come back and pick up.
Yeah.
um, a producer can tell you, hey, listen, pick up from this point because your cadence changed, or
Mm.
things like that. That's the advantage of working with an independent producer versus a company. And a lot of times there are a lot of myths that surround the recording world, because of how media and
Oh,
social media makes it look. you
oh
know
yeah.
it always makes it look so pleasant and so easy, like, oh, you just get in the booth and just say what you have to say, and it's just magic. and
Yeah. And it's
it's
done.
yeah, and it's so incredibly not that way.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I usually start with that point, like, how much experience do you have, and also
Mm.
what is your budget?
Wow, that is great. And I kind of jumped into this 'cause I was so excited. Can you just tell people about your experience? Since you're asking people about their experience, your experience in the game. And like you were saying, social media makes it really look glamorous because I just knew I was gonna get in there and look like Mary J. Blige with my headphones on, and I was gonna
Right.
be in a booth, and I was like, okay, all right, this
Right.
is different. All right. And it was great. I love the difference and I love the education that you gave me. So if you can just share a little bit about your experience, who you are, before we move on.
Okay, so my experiences have lasted. I've been in this game for about 30 years now.
Wow.
So my range in recording goes from the analog days when you had the big mixer
Wow.
sitting on the console, and then you had all of the knobs and everything you had to twist, and all of the buttons on the
Mm,
side of the mixer and underneath of the console, and you're looking on the side at the computer and looking up at the monitor. That's the world that I came from, all the way to now where we know, you can just have a laptop, a mic, and go for it, and
yeah.
you have the software. So I've been there since the early onset of audio recording as it became a popular thing.
Wow.
Um, and my experience with clients, I've had clients the entire time that I've been in the process. So I started off with maybe three clients. My company grew to where I was having 5 and 6 clients a day.
Wow.
People would come in with an idea, and a couple of months later, they would leave with a project in hand. And this is the days of CDs. So you
Seriously.
you would have a CD in your hand, by the
Yeah.
time you left. Um, in terms of artistry, my experience, I didn't know that I was a producer until someone else that was seasoned in the industry told me that that's what I was doing.
Wow.
um Early on, I was telling people how to sing and when to take their breath, and, oh, well, maybe
Mm,
let's change this word, and telling the engineer at the time, hey, can we add this type of effect and do this and blah 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 blah. And I was explaining it in public to somebody, and I was like, oh yeah, I just do these things. And he said, oh, you're a producer. I'm like,
yeah, that's what you do.
no, 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 no. I just tell this person to do this and tell this person to do that, and I just make it all come together. And he's like, yeah, in the industry, yes, sir,
And
you're a producer.
yes.
And that was maybe like 4 years in before I even knew that that's what I was doing. So,
Wow.
they told me that's what a producer is. And then later on, doing your research, you find out, yeah, that's exactly
Yep.
what a producer is. And you have people like Rick Rubin, Quincy Jones,
Hmm.
dare I say, because of the history behind his name, Sean Combs. You know, you have people like that that get credit for producing, but
Mm,
you always see somebody else at the controls doing
yeah.
something. And
Mm-hmm.
that's because people get confused about what a producer actually is. So in
Mm,
my experience, it's learning the language of all of the entities and all of the people that are involved. So you learn the technical language of the audio engineer. You learn the
mm,
language of the singer. You learn the literary language of the spoken word artist. You learn the language of the musician. You learn all of these different languages so that you can communicate to everybody to make sure the desired outcome is achieved. And
wow.
so that's been my experience. Uh, and and going closer and zooming in a little bit to what we're here about in terms of audiobooks and spoken word recording. Um, One of the biggest things that I found is that making sure that the artist understands that people can't see you when they're
Yeah.
listening to the
Yeah.
audio. And so
Yeah.
there's a certain emotion that has to be recorded in order
Mm,
for your message, in order for your art form to translate audibly. And
yeah.
so it's, hey, are you emphasizing the right word? You can
Mm,
you can say as an example, I'm going to school today. Okay, that's a sentence.
yeah.
But if you say, I'm going to school today, that all automatically makes you think of the destination. And
Mm.
so things like that are different tools and techniques that I use to help an artist get to, where they're supposed to be.
Yeah, so it's funny when other people are like, "Yeah, that's what you do," and it's like later in life, and you're like, "Oh," it's like
Right.
a big light bulb aha moment.
Yeah.
So y'all heard he has 30 years. That's a lot. Okay, 30 years experience. I just think of how young we both were because we both had milestone birthdays this year.
Right, right, right.
And like you said, you're talking back in the day of the CDs. When people walked away, when you said they walked away with a project, I knew exactly what you were talking about.
Hmm.
They're walking away with their CD in hand. And yeah, nowadays, like, all right, I'll send it to you and zip
Hmm.
and there you go. But
Right.
so we talked about the difference, and I really want to thank you because some people are like, well, wow, yeah, I really want that personal touch.
Hmm.
So now they're probably rethinking some things. This
Hmm.
is where the research and analysis comes in as you're rethinking things like, all right, so yeah, what is the difference between a sound engineer versus a producer? And you talked some about it already, the difference between the two.
Yeah, so a sound engineer, and I've gone to some of these bigger studios where you have that media look, the big board and somebody just sitting there just pressing buttons.
Mm-hmm.
So the sound engineer is the person that's at the controls to make sure that the audio signal is clean, that it's as precise as it can be, so that we can do whatever manipulation to it that we want or leave it as authentic as it is.
Mm.
Their job is to work with the signal, the audio signal itself. That is
Gotcha.
their job. So all of the processing that has to go with signal processing, that is their job. Their job is not to advise you artistically
Mm.
on what you're doing. Their job is specifically on the technical side and dealing with that signal processing and signal flow. A
Mm.
producer, on the other hand, as I said earlier, they are the ones that do all of the things.
Okay.
Yeah.
They do all the things and they really are like the guide on the side.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
like
I'm
to equate it to a lot of people know how church choirs, I would say, used to work.
okay. That's
Like,
yeah, that's
yeah,
another
that's a
segment
whole
for another day.
difference. Yeah, yeah. But there you have a choir director, and that choir director orchestrates where the song is going.
Mhm.
They tell the singers what they should be singing. They make sure the musicians know when to build it, when to break. They tell if they
Mm-hmm.
want the only the altos to sing, they tell the other voices, okay, stop, altos, you sing.
Yeah,
That is the equivalent to what a producer is in a record and in the studio.
got you. All right, we're learning today. Okay, we're learning. This is like a master class in like a 20-minute segment. So,
Right.
so ask yourself, do you want to work with a company that records or an individual producer and sound engineers? This is something for all of you to walk away with after learning just a snippet, because we're going to bring Maurice back, later on and talk about more. But before we go, I wanted to, this is very important. Me and Maurice both agree with this point as well. It's the budget, and budget. Okay, so
Mm-hmm.
let's talk about that because let's dispel myths out there, and
Mm-hmm.
and people say, "Oh, can you do this for me?"
Mm-hmm.
And they get a quote and they're like, well, I'll just do it myself. I can't believe how much that's going to cost. And it's like, all right,
Right.
well, good luck with doing that yourself. Like, I knew I could not. I was not trying to. I just was like, no. And that's one of the first things we talked about was your experience. What is it going to look like? Um, and then the budget,
Right. Right.
rates. So
Mhm.
let's talk about budgets.
Right. There's a very simple way to look at it. Because the first thing you have to do is get rid of the myth that the way that you read your material in your head is not the way that it's going to come out of your mouth. And
Mm, mm.
so a lot of times you might say, "Oh, I only have one poem or two poems. Oh, I can do that in an hour." And as a producer, I'm going to laugh at you because I know it's going to take way longer than an hour to do.
Yeah,
The poem is only 3 minutes long. Exactly. That's how I know it's going to take you more than an hour to do it.
yeah.
Here's so the budget is important because whatever the studio's rate is or the producer's rate is, they could be charging per hour or could be charging per session.
Mm,
The budget is important because you always want to over budget. What happens
yes.
is there are a lot of mistakes that you don't know that you're going to make, and it will
Oh, yeah.
cause a frustration point in you if you're looking at, okay, I can get this done in 2 hours and I'm done, and then you're pushing at an hour and a half and you're only a quarter of the way in.
Yeah.
So um it can get very meticulous when you're under the pressure of recording. So the
Mm-hmm.
budget is important because you might have only put away, say, $300-400 to record, for a couple of hours, and you're thinking that you'll get the whole album done, and
No.
you're not understanding how many mistakes you're going to make, and the time that it takes to process the signal, listen to playback,
Mm-hmm.
all of those different things you're not aware of. And so the budget is important. That I would almost suggest that whatever you think it's going to cost, double or triple it.
Yeah. Yeah. And then it's the people don't think about, like you said, the work that's done after the session is over. Because now you have to listen
Right.
and you're listening to it from the beginning. And I remember the first book I recorded, I love thumping. Okay, the bottom, because I use my hands a lot. And I was like, oh, the
Mm-hmm.
thump, but that's part of you had to go back and clean it up.
Mm-hmm.
And even I listened. And that's what people don't realize is you should go back and listen
Mm-hmm.
to your recording and say, oh, I meant to say this line like this, or
Right.
I meant to use this word. And then now you're back in the studio. Okay, or you're back recording because you got to
Mm-hmm.
record that line again. So
Mm-hmm.
I remember over budgeting. And I remember like the first time you're like, "Oh, this is it." I'm like, "Oh," and because I was under budget because I had over, and I was like, but I knew that there's more work to be done afterwards, and that's going
Mm-hmm.
to take time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I love your honesty because you were like, "This is going to probably take about this amount of time to just listen to it all, clean it up, and then get it back to you." And then there's still time because after I hear it, we might need to add something. I remember it was a page missing, and
Right.
I was like, I should have read that last page. And then I remember coming back to you, we read the last, added it, and so forth. The second book we learn from the first book and
Mhm.
recorded differently, and you learn from every book. That's what I'm learning as well. So we're gonna, because we could talk more and more about next steps, and but we're gonna save
Absolutely.
that. We're gonna table that. So Maurice, tell people where they could find you if they're looking for you.
I'm very easy to find on social media. If you type in Maurice Carroll or Maurice L. Carroll, that's where you'll find me on Instagram, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, and my website. You'll find me. I keep it very simple.
And literally, you type in his name, it starts to come up. Even Google,
Even,
and
yes,
I tell people Carol is not like Carol Burnett with one R. It's
two R's,
two
two
R's.
L's.
Yes, two L's. So
Right,
as soon as you start typing it in, even if you do spell it like Carol Burnett, it's going to pop up. You just find his lovely face and be like, that's who I want to work with. That, yes, I want to work with
right.
Maurice Carroll. Maurice will take extra good care of you. I want to thank you for just joining me today. I want to thank you for the two books. Yeah, two books that we've recorded together. Book three. I'll call you later. We're going to talk about the next recording, and
That sounds good.
we will have a business meeting here on the segment. So for those who want to find out more about who I am, you can go to my social media platforms, Divine Right, and that's my spoken word and stage name, DIVINEWRYTE. Don't forget the Y. On my website, serenawills.com, SERENAWILLS.com. And that is our time for today. Maurice, thank you again so much for joining me. I
Thank you.
appreciate you. Take good care, everyone, and one love for now. Bye.